The greatest story ever told. That's often how the story of Jesus, the gospel, is described. When I hear this, though, I think of those cheesy 1960s and 70s movies about the life of Jesus, like Ben-Hur or Jesus of Nazareth. They weren't terrible, but they certainly weren't anywhere close to being the greatest story ever told. The greatest story would be something like Star Wars or Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings, some of the top grossing and most popular books and movies of all time. The greatest story ever told. The two things that affect us most, that matter most to us as human beings, the two universal existential realities that have the most profound impact on our lives are love and death. Love is the only thing that makes sense of life. It's where deep down the meaning is found. Love is the only thing that makes life worth living. It's what our hearts need and long for most, desire most. Love is the source of our truest joy. Death, however, is our greatest nemesis, our biggest enemy, precisely because it steals the love out of our lives. First, the people that we love the most, and then eventually it comes for us. Death is the thing that we want to avoid most. Death is our greatest fear. So the greatest story ever told would have to deal with these two most universal, existential, profound realities that we as humans face. It would have to somehow depict death being decisively defeated, and then it would have to somehow portray a perfect love that completely fulfills the longing of the human heart. It would have to, in short, be about eternal love like no other. That's what the gospel is. That's what it's all about. The life, death, and resurrection of Jesus reveals an eternal love. God himself comes and gives his life on a cross, makes the supreme sacrifice for us. In the most heroic way possible, he performs the ultimate act of love for us. And then in the resurrection, he vanquishes death. The resurrection portrays the complete vanquishing, destruction, defeat of death by the perfect love revealed on the cross. It shows ultimately that this perfect love is the most powerful force in the universe. The greatest story ever told. As J.R.R. Tolkien, Lord of the Rings author, once said, this story, the gospel, is the story that human beings would most want to be true. It is the ultimate victory of good over evil, of love over hate, of life over death. This is the greatest story ever told. If there's no God, if there's nothing after death, then nothing we do amounts to anything. All the love that we share and experience with one another means nothing. Our lives have no significance, no meaning whatsoever. They're all pretty much a waste. Our lives are clothed with absurdity. But there's something deep within us that rebels against us. We have a deep instinct, intuition that tells us that's not true, that the love we experience in this life is much more than an accidental collection of atoms, that it is real, that it does matter, that the relationships we have, that the people that we love have real meaning and significance. Jen Fulwiler is a Catholic radio host, but for most of her life, she was a staunch atheist until her young adult life. There were many things that changed her mind about God, but one of the most significant was when she had her first son. As an atheist, she knew full well that the logical consequence of her atheism was that the love she felt for her child and her husband were simply the release of chemicals in her brain. That's all there is to it. But there was something in her that just couldn't accept it. That love that she felt for her child and her husband were just too overwhelming, too real and complex and beautiful to be neurons firing off in her brain. This is how she describes it. Atheism could not account for the bond that Joe, that's her husband, and I shared. It offered no lexicon for capturing what I saw in my child. An atheistic worldview could offer an accurate explanation of the way my brain chemistry had been altered to experience more of the sensation that we label love, but I was certain now that that explanation would stop short of the full truth. It would be like confusing a picture of the Grand Canyon with the actual place There's nothing false about the picture, but it would be foolish to confuse the piece of paper with the real thing. There was more to human life than the atoms that made up our bodies. I was sure of it. If she's right, if there is a God, then precisely because it deals with these two biggest universal existential realities, love and death, precisely because it deals with them in such a sublime way, the gospel is the exact story we would expect to be true. We would expect a God who created us for an eternal love to reveal himself, to reveal this love in the exact way that he does on the cross, the ultimate way that he possibly could, showing us a love of which there is no greater. And then we would expect him to show the decisive defeat of death, to show that this love, this perfect love revealed on the cross, does conquer everything. It conquers all, and that we have a home, a place with him in eternity. Our lives in the end do matter, that they matter infinitely. The greatest story ever told? Yes, 1,000 times yes. This is the story that human beings would most want to be true, and that means that it probably is. So do you think the gospel, the story of Jesus' life, death, and resurrection, is the greatest story ever told? Go to the Contact EJ page of the Raising Jesus website and let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your comments. Also, please continue to like our Facebook page, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and keep telling your friends about us. I really appreciate that. Thank you.